Joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show is the head coach of Liberty Football. Thrilled to have here on the program with his quarterback from the last couple of years, shooting up the charts right now, to say the least. Malik Willis, we're referring to on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line here on the Rich Eisen Show is Hugh Freeze. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing great, Rich. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. I have not met in person Malik Willis, but I've heard nothing but remarkable things about him. When was the first time he crossed your radar screen, Hugh Freeze?
Well, I was coaching at Ole Miss when he was doing well in high school in Roswell, Georgia. So I knew of him. We did not actively recruit him then, as he was committed fairly early, first to Virginia Tech, then to Auburn. So didn't get to know him real well through the process at all. So a few years pass, and I show up at Liberty, and he decides to transfer out of Auburn after spring, when he just had really no quality reps there at all. And so that was when I was intrigued, because I knew the type of athlete he was, and I knew, in my opinion, at most colleges outside the top echelon, finding offensive linemen is probably the hardest thing we have to do. And, I know at my previous stops, athletic quarterbacks have always benefited our system. And so I was very intrigued. Didn't have, the only reps I had to really watch was him going in. I think he had a total of like 15 snaps, and they were mostly all zone reads. And so then it's a matter of getting to know him and then deciding, do we think he can be an adequate passer? And, he sent me the videos of him working out. We got to know each other. We brought him up on a visit, fell in love with him as a kid. And then it's just kind of had to go with my gut. And can we win football games with this young man? And I really believe we could, and had no clue that we would be talking on your show today about him being drafted in the first round at that point. But it was 4 to 5 games into his first season that I thought, man, he's a lot better than we gave him credit for. And he just has continued to improve. And I think the sky's the limit, because we're talking about a guy that's only played quarterback for 2 years.
And, I watching him work out at the Combine was just eye-popping. His arm and what he was doing with it, and the deep balls that he was heaving in the Lucas Oil Stadium, night was, I'll be honest, reminiscent a little bit of what I saw from Josh Allen a couple of years ago, where he's just fading back around a 10-yard line and launching it, and there it goes on the other 30-yard line, just dropped into a bucket. So you could see the arm strength. What about his readiness, do you think, though, at the next level, Hugh Freeze, and the questions that you're hearing about that regarding Malik Willis?
That's obviously pretty much daily right now, have talks with some teams, and at the Senior Bowl met with a lot, and then obviously our pro day, and now the calls continue as he's making his rounds to different sites to visit with those teams. And I think that's the question that that everyone has to answer. And my response is, in this draft, I don't see anyone that has, and nothing against, and I recruited Matt Corral, and he was committed to me before I left Ole Miss, and I think he's a great quarterback too, but I don't believe in this draft that there's one that has a higher ceiling than Malik. And it's like I tell the general managers and head coaches that were here, what he doesn't know, Rich, he doesn't know. It's not because he can't do it, or he's still young in this process. So But when you watch, I don't get to watch a lot of NFL because of our schedule, but I do get to see the playoffs. And when I watched the playoffs last year, the one thing that I thought was eye-popping and I thought was pretty consistent in about every game I watched is everyone struggles to protect the quarterback with these incredible defensive lines that they have. And so to have a guy that can extend plays, that create opportunities to stay on the field when things don't go exactly as you have drawn up, and that has the arm strength and incredible. Malik has the best balance of probably any running back I've ever had. And he's so physically strong and balanced, and you combine that with his ability to extend plays, and at the same time, I think he's proven that he has continued to improve when just being in the pocket and reading through progression. So I believe he has the highest ceiling, and one of the greatest things that I think he brings to your locker room is just his humility, to where if you told him, hey, you're not quite ready, you're the backup, great, coach, let me know what I can do to help us win. If you looked at him and said, Malik, you won it, you're starting, great. I mean, he's going to have the same response to both. And I just think he makes your whole team better, and he gives you that what I think most NFL teams that were in the Final Four to 6 to 8 kind of resembled people that are like Malik at the quarterback position.
Hugh Freeze, head coach of Liberty Football, here on the Rich Eisen Show. We're talking about his quarterback, Malik Willis, who is truly got a ton of buzz around him right now, 3 weeks in one day before the NFL draft in Las Vegas, Nevada. You mentioned a couple times now about Malik, the person, and the video, I'm sure you have seen it, that went viral from the Combine, was captured by a member of the media having lunch across the street from a corner in Indianapolis, where they spot Malik Willis opening up what appeared to be, a swag bag that he just received, and giving some what looks like a hat or just some warm clothing to a person sitting on a carton on a street corner, clearly needing some help. And what this was, he had no idea who was being captured. He had no idea that this was being posted. And this is just him, being what appears to be just him. So what can you tell me about him?
That is him. That is him all day. I'm shocked he would have given them the whole suitcase if he'd have felt that they needed it. And he's just that way. He's done that ever since he's been here. At our most recent bowl game, you do the community service events, and we kind of scatter those, rotate through our roster to where everybody doesn't have to do every single one of those. And our personnel department kind of heads that up for us, and they made a critical error. And the day before the game, it was the last community service event, and they waited and had the D-line assigned to that. Well, you don't do that. You let the D-line go first early in the week because after that practice there, many of the D-line were complaining to our personnel people, and, I'd already left and headed back to watch film and get ready for the game. And the type of person Malik is, he just steps up and says, that's fine. If they don't want to go, me and the offensive line do another shift and we'll go. And he did. And now the D-line went with him, of course, but that's the type of guy he is and leader he is, and he's just been that consistent with that throughout his time here. And he's just I called him last night just to check in on him, and man, he just has that spirit about him that makes everybody around him better.
I can't wait to meet him. I'll be honest with you. You're
really going to like him. I mean, he is as genuine and as he's like a little kid at heart, and that's the way he practices. And that would drive me crazy sometimes.
What do you mean?
So we just dropped a pass in the red zone in practice, and I'm furious, or we made the wrong read or we fumbled, and here he is over there with the defense congratulating them on making a play, and I'm wanting to just jerk him over there and say, what, you know, and his whole deal, oh, Coach, we'll make the next one. We'll make the next one, you know. And he believes that he will, and that's why I was at the Senior Bowl meeting with one of the general managers up top, and I was trying to explain to them this same thing, and I said, you know what, instead of me explaining it, can we just step to the window and watch him? And I think you'll see, because I know him so well. And sure enough, he did his reps. And after his reps are over, he's over here talking to some defensive end, laughing and joking. And then they break, and the quarterback coach takes the others. And here he is still talking to this defensive end. And then he's got to sprint over there because he's late to his drill. I said, that's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of kids you're getting. But everybody loves being around him, and so it's he's just a special individual, and I think you'll see it when you meet him.
So, what are you hearing about from teams then?
Man,
what are you hearing about? What are you thinking?
Rich, this is the most confused. I had a lot of first rounders when I was at Ole Miss,
right?
And I kind of had an idea. I have no clue on this one. You know, I know the teams that have spent an enormous amount of time visiting with me, you know, whether it's Carolina or Pittsburgh or Atlanta, you know, all of those Seahawks have spent a lot of time with us, but it's hard for me to keep up. We're in the middle of spring practice with all the free agency and who's taking quarterbacks and who's not, and when they're going to take them, and it's very. I called him last night, and he told me where his rotation was, of where he was all going to visit, which none really surprised me. Philadelphia has called here recently. I talked to them a lot last night, and so I don't think Malik. I asked him, man, do you really have? He said, I have no clue, Coach, and it's kind of difficult for me to judge, kind of how they're holding their cards pretty well.
Philadelphia, huh? So what is that? Is that you talked to Howie Roseman? You talked to?
No, I talked to Coach Panunzio last night. Okay. I think he's in their personnel. We go back from our days in the SEC together, but he was definitely calling on behalf of them with some more conversation.
Who else? Who else you spoke to, Hugh Freeze? What do you got?
Oh gosh, I mean, pro day, everybody.
Really?
You know, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but everyone was here, and I tried to visit with as many as I could. But again, I mentioned earlier the ones that I think, you know, have spent the most time, whether it was Washington early on at the Senior Bowl, you know, was very met with them. Again, Atlanta, Seattle.
What about Pittsburgh?
Oh yeah, love Pittsburgh. Love Tomlin. Man, what a great guy he is. You know, I like him a lot. Again, can't really tell. I think they like Malik a lot. Carolina, I've spent a lot of time with also. So I know they have genuine interest, but to say, you know, what they're really thinking, I really have no clue.
How about it? I mean, what an intriguing, fascinating.
What do you hear?
Oh man, I don't know. Are you here? Well, please. I mean, I hear everything, and
yeah.
I mean, there's smoke, there's fire, and then there's really a big pile of you know what. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you have no idea which is what or what's which, and you hear the Saints just traded up, you know, into the first round again. Maybe they're going to use that firepower to go all the way up in front of Carolina at 6 to get the quarterback that they want, or they're just going to sit there and maybe Malik falls to him there, or maybe Pickett falls to him there, or they want no quarterbacks. You're right. It's very difficult to get a read out of this, Hugh Freeze.
It is for me this year. Typically, you know, all right, these 4 quarterbacks are going in the first round somewhere, and this year I truthfully just have no clue.
Hugh Freeze, thank you for the time. Let's do this again. Truly appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. That is Hugh Freeze, Liberty head coach, here on the Rich Eisen Show. Send that one to Philadelphia. WIP, hearing you. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.